that there are a lot of people gathered here on today. And we know across this country we have seen where there have been gatherings that shootings and terrorism have taken place. We ask for your safety. We ask for your protection. We ask that you give law enforcement keen eyesight and discernment. Let them see what they need to see, hear what they need to hear, recognize what they need to recognize. Give them protection as they protect us. God, I also ask that you bless these graduates. We're thankful for their accomplishment. Help them to understand this is a beginning and not an ending. Help them that as they leave here to make wise decisions, for foolish decisions will have foolish consequences. Unthought out decisions will have disastrous consequences. God, I ask that you also bless this school, Jones College. Let them use this time of graduation to ask, what can we do better? How can we better invest into the lives of other students that are coming this way? I ask your blessing upon the parents who have labored to get their children through these years of study. But I ask that you help them to realize that even though their children are now young adults, they still need their wisdom and experience in life. And I pray that these young people would avail themselves to that experience. And God, we ask now your blessing upon this ceremony, that it would be one that would be remembered, one that would be enjoyed. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen. Graduates, you may be seated.
and marvelous, marvelous are your deeds.
Great and marvelous,
Marvelous are your deeds, Lord God Almighty.
I know God is able to deliver time from the storm, and I know He will keep me. He kept me from that earthly harm. One day when my weary soul is at rest, I'm going home to be forever blessed.
trust and never doubt.
Oh, said He. And I will see, yes I will, every day.
Every hour, He gives me power.
And oh, for all He's
my God.
yes He is. No matter the test.
Trust and never doubt. Surely bring you out. He never failed me yet.
Now did my God deliver Moses from King Pharaoh? And then He called the fiery furnace for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When I think of what my God can do, if He did it for Daniel, then He can do the same for you. Oh, say He.
He never failed me yet. God's mercy.
Every day,
Every day, every hour, He gives me power.
I will see, and it's thanks to Thee. Oh, for all the things you said for God. He is my God, and I serve Him. No matter the time.
Trust and never doubt.
Oh, say He.
He never failed me yet.
Oh,
He never failed me. He never failed me.
Said He never failed me. I said failed me. Oh, failed me. Look at Job, how he waited on the Lord. Lost everything he had, but God I stepped in on time. He's on time. Said he never failed.
He never failed me. He never failed me. Oh, he never failed me. Oh, he never failed me. I said I tried it. Have you tried it? He never failed me. He never failed me. Oh, he never failed me. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Hey.
Thank you. I hate to ask this, but if you could please stand. Join us in singing the alma mater. The words are printed on the back of your program.
Thank you, Concert Choir. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give this fine concert choir one more round of applause. These students truly are a remarkable bunch of students. They are our cross-section of majors within the college, and they devote their time, and we are so thankful that they were gifted with those musical talents. We're also very thankful that our fearless leader, who has done such a great job, Mr. Joel Dunlap, has led them and been able to inspire us and to teach us the great music, along with the accompaniment, Dr. Victoria Johnson. Let's give them a round of applause. I would also like to say a nice hello to all of those that are watching from the Fine Arts, the MP Bush Fine Arts Auditorium across campus. Thank you for being patient, and we appreciate you so much. And we apologize for not having a venue large enough to be able to get the entire crowd. However, if you would like to donate money toward that cause, we would gladly accept that. It is only fitting that we begin today. I hope you referenced in your program that today is about family. It's the Jones family. None of us would be where we are without some family support. It could be a relative or it could be a friend in our community. We wouldn't be anywhere where we are today without the support of our families, no matter what formation that is. We're very thankful for that today. We're also very thankful that we are able to be here because we live in a country that is safe and it is focused on liberty, and we have men and women who are dedicated to making America safe and the world safe by their time-honored commitment of serving in the military. One gentleman I would like to recognize is with us today, who actually returned home from his training today, is also a faculty member here. He left us in February and having to go into active duty. And today, on stage with us, he is also a chair of the Industrial Services Division. He is an automotive technician teacher, and he works on jet aircraft for the Air Force, Air Guard, and he's with us today. He just returned home yesterday, and what a way to get immersed back into the college. Mr. Barry Bradshaw, if you'd stand and let us recognize you for your service. I know the faculty and staff, we welcome you home. Glad you're here. On stage today, we've got a great support group. These are the men and women that are underneath supporting the college. As you know, our esteemed faculty are here as you saw them process in. These folk, our faculty out there, are some of the most dedicated people in the world. They're brilliant. They can be anywhere in the world doing what they want to do, but they have actually chosen to serve in higher education, and I can think of no greater cause. If you would, let's thank them for their service. On stage with me, and we can start in the back, I'd like to introduce our friends that are with us today. In the back, if you would stand, as I call your name, we have Representative Gary Staples with us. He represents Jones County. Thank you for being with us, Gary. And Wayne Myrick, also a friend of ours, a friend of the college from Jones County. To my left over here, we have Miss Pat Waldrop, who is a retired Dean of Women, cheer coach, Hall of Famer in the Athletic Hall of Fame. She's sitting next to the Mayor Emeritus of Ellisville and also a former Vice President, Mr. Tim Waldrop. And those of you that may remember them, yes, Mayor still has a discipline file on you somewhere, and he can be blackmailed at the right time. We also have Mr. Jimmy Dale Hancock is here. He's the Superintendent of Education in Smith County. We have Mr. Josh Perkins, who's the Superintendent representing Enterprise. We have Dr. Jalen Roberts, who is here. He works at William Carey as a professor, and he represents Perry County. Next to him, we have Mr. Robert Sullivan, who is the attorney for the board and for the college and has been doing it for a number of years. Next to him, we have Mayor Cliff Kelly. Mayor Kelly is the mayor of Mount Olive, is a pharmacist. He represents on the board Covington County. And we have Ms. Carolyn Smith, who is a longtime serving board member, who's here representing Clark County. Next to her, we have Ms. Janine Agee, who is here. She is an administrator in the Laurel City Schools, and she represents Jones County as well. We have Mayor Wilbert Carr, who is the mayor of Heidelberg, who represents Jasper County. We have Zach Buckley, the CEO and president of Buckley News, here representing Jasper County. We have Mr. David Scruggs, who is the supervisor for the beat of which here in Jones County, of which Jones sits. Thank you, David, for being here with us today. We have Mr. Curtis Gray, who is also supervisor in Jasper County, was instrumental in helping us build the Jasper County Center. Curtis, always an honor to have you today. We have Dwight Norris, who is instrumental in the Smith County Tuition Scholarship Program. He's representing Smith County as a supervisor. Thank you for being with us today. We have Mr. Wayne Barrow, who is representing as the board president, the supervisors of Greene County. Now, To my end over here, we got Mr. Mark Easley, who is the Dean of Students. And our guest speaker today, and the lady that I dearly love and care for. I grew up a half a mile from her, and she used to babysit me when she was a young lady, young girl. We are not that far difference in age, but she took care of me, and that's Miss Emily White. She's here with us, and let's give her a round of applause, because I can tell you, I was a pretty rambunctious child. We also have guests with us today of Mr. Rick Youngblood. We've got Mary and Sandra Powell, and Bill and Nancy Youngblood. Thank you all for being with us today. You're welcome to stand, so see where Emily gets all of her smarts and beauty from. We have Michael Bradshaw as assistant to the president. We have Dr. Mike Cole. Administrative team, y'all all stand if you don't mind. And we go Dr. Cole. We have Miss Ashley. We have Amanda McLeod. We have Jennifer Griffith. We have Julie Atwood. We have Rod Talbert. And we have our vice president of the foundation, whom you can make your check donation to, Mr. Charlie Garrettson. To my far left is Dr. Sam Jones, Mr. Jim Wiley, and Miss Fanae Ruffin. To my far right, we have Miss Gwen McGee. And Laura Youngblood is here with us, and that's Rick's better half. Rick is our vice president of finance. We have Vice President Candace Weaver, Dr. Jason Deadwilder. Let's give these folks a nice round of applause. Maybe seated. And the leadership of our Board of Trustees has fallen to these three folks, and I want to recognize them. First, as our Secretary and Treasurer, is Mr. Mike Evans. He is from Clara, Waynesboro area, and represents Wayne County. And then we have Miss Ann Tucker. I was going to say Ann Strickland, but Ann Tucker. I'm sorry, Ann Tucker. Now, this lady here, how many of you are in state government retirement system? Raise your hand if you may, if you want to. There is a lady at the top of the list who have served in the state of Mississippi that's number one in service. How many years of service? 57 or 58 years of service as an educator at Northeast Jones High School. And our chairman of the board is Mr. David Garner, who is my lifelong friend. He and I graduated college here together. Thank you, David, for all your leadership. Let's give these folks a nice round of applause. It is a special honor for me to be with you today to share with you and one of Mississippi's brightest young minds, stars, and leaders. It has been a long time since we have seen someone with this caliber of intellect, emotional intelligence, care for their fellow man, who has got his value system right and is a born and natural leader. And that is Shad White. He is Mississippi's 42nd state auditor. He's originally from Sandersville, Mississippi, population 731. Shad was raised by his father, who was an oil field pumper. He couldn't be with us. His name is Bob. And of course, he met his mom, a school teacher, Emily. Prior to becoming auditor, Shad served as the director of policy to then the lieutenant governor, Phil Bryant, in 2011. Later, he practiced law in the private sector and served as a special prosecutor in Rankin County and served as the director of the Mississippi Justice Institute. At the Mississippi Justice Institute, Shad filed and led cases against public officials when they violated Mississippi's open government and ethics laws. Now, Shad holds a bachelor's arts degree in economics and political science from the University of Mississippi, where he was a Truman Scholar. He studied as a Rhodes Scholar at the University of Oxford and earning a master's degree in economics and social history, and later earned his Juris Doctorate from Harvard Law School. He also taught as an adjunct professor at the University of Mississippi and earned a certificate in forensic accounting from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. On the 6th of July, 2018, Governor Phil Bryant announced his appointment of Shad to serve as the state auditor. Shad is running this November unopposed in the election, which he will retain his position. Today, Shad and his wife Rena and his new daughter, Zara, they live in Rankin County and are faithful members at St. Richard Church. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about this, and students, you will, God willing, vote for this man in a national election. We want to support him. He is what America needs as far as leadership is concerned. As you will get to know him through his career, if you've ever studied Teddy Roosevelt about how he did things the right way, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see things over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 decades, how things are done the Shad way, which is the right way. I want you to hear from him today, students. Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker, the 42nd auditor to the state of Mississippi, Mr. Shad White.
President Smith, faculty, graduates, family, and friends, it is an honor to be here with you today. It's also incredibly nerve-wracking because my 9th grade English teacher is on stage right now, Miss Ann Tucker. There are sentences in here that end in a preposition. I can go ahead and tell you, it's going to get rough. It's going to get rough. It is an honor to be here with you today, graduates, to celebrate your accomplishment, to celebrate this accomplishment with you and your families. I'm incredibly grateful for this chance to speak to you a little bit. Today, what I wanted to talk to you about are two concepts that I wish somebody had talked to me about maybe 10 or 12 years ago when I was about your age. These two concepts that I want to cover are independence and ownership. So let's first talk about independence. For some time now, everybody here has had independence. You're adults. You drive yourself to class. You probably live on your own. You may have a job outside of school where you make a little extra money, where you get to decide how you spend it. You pick your own schedule. This thing, independence, is obviously important for learning to become an adult on this planet. But I'm going to argue today that one concept, independence, is not sufficient for you to have a fulfilling or meaningful life. In order to have a fulfilling or meaningful life, I think we need another concept, and that is the concept of ownership. So what I mean by ownership is this notion that you own your own destiny. You realize that you alone have to set a goal for your life, that no one is going to set that goal for you. You alone realize that you are going to have to put forth the effort and the work to get to that goal. No one is going to do the work for you. You alone realize that you are going to have to make sacrifices to get to that goal. No one is going to do the work or make the sacrifices for you. Think about it this way. Independence is the thing that gives you the freedom to sleep through your alarm clock in the morning, if you wanted to do that. Ownership is this feeling that you don't even want to sleep through the alarm clock, because doing so would prevent you from getting to the very goal that you're trying to get to. To tell you a little bit about why these concepts are important to me and why I have thought so much about them, I want to tell you a little bit about my story. So I grew up not far from here, as President Smith said, in a little bitty town called Sandersville. It's in the north part of Jones County. And after I graduated from high school, I went to Oxford, Mississippi, and graduated from Ole Miss up there. After I graduated at Ole Miss, I went to Washington, D.C., and I worked at a think tank for about a year. I finished up there. I moved to England. I studied there and got a master's degree at the University of Oxford in England. And while I was there, I realized that I was an independent person. I was living in a foreign country alone. I was choosing of my own volition to eat very, very bad British food at the time. I was choosing who I wanted to hang out with. I was choosing where I wanted to travel. I was making choices for myself as an adult. But I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had not yet embraced this idea that I alone was going to have to find a big professional goal and set it and go after it. And I had not embraced this idea that no one was going to make sacrifices for me, that I was going to have to do it myself. What I knew, though, was that I had a passion for helping people and a passion for public service, and that I wanted to use my brain and whatever talent God may have given me to make my home, Mississippi, a better place. So I think I came by that desire an honest way. I'll tell you this story. Growing up, my dad was an oil field pumper in the little town I grew up in. And if you parents or anyone else have worked in the oil field, or you know somebody who's worked in the oil field, you know that these can be dirty jobs. So at least one night a week when I was growing up, my dad would come in from the oil field and he would wash the dirt and the oil off of his face and out of his hair. And he would eat a bite to eat. And he would immediately then leave pretty quickly and go right back across the street to City Hall. And the reason he did that was because for most of my life he served as an alderman in the little town I grew up in. Today he's still an oil field pumper, but he also serves as mayor of that little town. He believes he is president of the United States. I can make fun of him because he didn't show up today, so that's the problem that you have. He has an old beat-up Chevy truck he calls Air Force One. We don't know what to do with him anymore. But the important thing that I learned from him was this lesson about public service and how everybody, didn't matter who you were, what your day job was, everybody had some responsibility to give back to their community and back to their state. I also knew that not all service was created equal. So I watched as several other friends embarked on careers with a similar goal of making a difference in public service. But many of them, within a short amount of time, started to realize that their ability to make change depended not just on their willingness to work hard, but believe it or not, it depended on their boss's ability and their political capital to get things done. So I'll give you an example. I had one friend who was interested at the time in working in education policy. So he got a degree, he made some connections, he decided to join a city school district in a big city on the East Coast. He packed up his bags where we were living in England and he moved to that city. But within a few months, he had lost his job. The reason he had lost his job was that his boss, the elected mayor of that city, lost re-election. And so my friend was out of luck. That friend's story was a light bulb moment for me. I knew that if I wanted to have as big of an impact as possible on public policy, that I would either need to work for a candidate or run for office myself one day. That, to me, seemed the best way to ensure that I did not end up like my friend, working on good ideas, but never being put in a position where I could implement them or see real change. So I made a decision to come home. I made a decision to find a candidate that I liked and wanted to work for. And that first candidate that I found was a guy named Alan Nunnally. So Alan was a brilliant, courageous man who, at the time, was running for Congress in North Mississippi. And he tragically died a few years ago of cancer, but when he was alive, he was somebody that I admired a great deal. I did not know Alan, but I knew of him, and I knew of his work ethic, I knew of what he accomplished, so I decided to cold call him, out of the blue. Didn't know him from Adam. I talked to Alan, and I said, look, I know you don't know me, but I'm a Mississippian. I'm living in England right now. I'm interested in working on your campaign. I'm willing to move to Tupelo. And here's the kicker, I'll work on your campaign for free if you'll just give me some good responsibilities. And Alan said, well, it's hard to turn down free. So I got the job. I finished up my coursework in England and I moved to Tupelo and I jumped on to Alan's campaign. And I will tell you that campaign, especially early, was not easy. When I arrived on the campaign, I sort of naively assumed that they would put me in charge of something very important because, after all, I was a really neat guy and I had a master's degree. And that is not how the world works, I found out real quick. I think my first task on the campaign was sweeping up the floor after last night's campaign event. I didn't have a ton of money. They were paying me a little bit, but I did have a little. So I decided to rent a space in a resident's home in Tupelo. But because the rent that I could pay was so low, I agreed to tend my landlord's garden for him, just to help make up the difference. I survived mostly on cans of beans and vegetables, which actually was better than the food I was eating in England, so that's not really a complaint, to be honest with you. And I was putting in pretty crazy hours 7 days a week. But I noticed something. Every single week that went by, they gave me more and more responsibility. So if I did a good job sweeping the floor at last night's campaign event, they put me in charge of next week's campaign event. If I did a good job organizing next week's campaign event, they let me handle the press relationships for the next campaign event. If I did a good job handling the newspapers and the newscasters, they put me in charge of writing press releases for the next month. So by the end of the campaign, I was writing everything that the campaign produced: website content, social media content, email blast to supporters, policy papers, everything that the campaign produced. And that was the moment when a big break happened. So in the final week of the campaign, Alan and his campaign manager and I were traveling on a bus tour in North Mississippi. We were on a big charter bus, and each day we would have a new visiting leader who would come on with us, and they would travel around and campaign with us. One day we had a guy on there named Lieutenant Governor Phil Bryant. So Lieutenant Governor Bryant and I had never met, but I noticed that he and Alan were sitting in the front of the bus and they were talking, and Lieutenant Governor Bryant asked Alan, "Who is it that's writing all the stuff for the campaign, the email blasts and the Facebook posts and everything else? I'm really enjoying reading those." And Alan said, "It's that nerd back there in the back of the bus." And that was me, just steadily typing away. Governor Bryant and I struck up a conversation, and we realized that the two of us actually had a lot in common. So we were both from small towns. His dad was a diesel mechanic. My dad was an oil field pumper. We both had a passion for policy that affected working people, so the people that go to work every day, pay their taxes, raise their kids, go to church. He had served as state auditor, and I had a passion for law enforcement and for stopping corruption. And so by the end of the day's bus tour, Governor Bryant had offered me a job. Now, to this day, I'll tell you that I think that the reason he offered me that job was probably because he was pretty desperate. He had just lost his policy director, and I was a warm body standing in front of him. But I snatched the job up, and I served as his policy director for a few months. Then I got moved and promoted up to be his deputy campaign manager on his first run for office. 4 years later, he asked me to serve as campaign manager for his re-election campaign, and then fast forward to last year, he appointed me to be state auditor. So the reason I tell you that story is that I realized that it was only when I set a goal and made sacrifices to get to the goal that lucky break, that open door, happened. Those sacrifices are things that you will likely have to give up too. You might have to make a little less money in a certain job. You might have to work longer hours than you're anticipating. You might have to sleep a little less. You might have to tend some landlord's tomato garden. I don't know. But that's when you'll get lucky. That's when the door will open, when you're willing to put in the work. I think there's truth in that adage that the harder you work, the luckier you get. So today, I want to challenge you, graduates. I want to challenge you to think about your own life and think about what it would mean to take ownership over your own life. What is the goal that you're going to pursue after this? How hard are you willing to work to get there? What are you willing to sacrifice, to give up, to get to that thing? I will tell you that I think these are tough questions, but I have always found that just giving of myself and trying to get to the goal, that is the very thing that opens the door. And not only that, it is more fulfilling than just the joy of being an independent adult, than just the joy of independence. So if I might, I'd like to close by telling you 3 things that I think I learned along the way as I was learning to take ownership over my own life. The first is that one of the greatest assets you can give yourself is this willingness to do any task, no matter what it is, especially when you first start a job. So think back to when I started on the campaign and the first task was sweeping the floor after the campaign event. I would challenge you to learn that that's not my job should not be in your vocabulary, especially early in your career. Doing the kinds of small and sometimes menial tasks, that's the thing that's going to give your boss the confidence to give you the big tasks. So thing number 2 I learned, you're trying to determine probably what your goal is. What's your next goal after this? In order to do that, I would tell you that you need to think about what gives you joy in life and how that might practically relate to making a living. But the other thing I want to tell you is that whatever you come up with, whatever this goal is, it's not going to be perfect right now. I guarantee it. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. Just pick something and get to work. Press toward that thing. You may not ever get to that goal. You may be surprised where you end up. I could not have predicted 10 years ago that I would be state auditor. But I can promise you this, if you pick a goal and you start working, the place where you land will be better because you picked a reasonable goal and you got to work. The third thing I want to tell you is that while I think that taking ownership of your life and your career is important, it's important for having a fulfilling career. Having a fulfilling career is not everything. My relationship with God, my relationship with my family, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my 8-week-old daughter, these are the things that give me power and purpose that I need as well. And you will need those things as well. Your work, your life, your effort outside of your normal professional environment, that's going to take some work, just as much as your normal job will. I guarantee that. So I want to thank you today. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and share some thoughts with you. I want to challenge you to think hard and take ownership over your own life, to find your calling. And above all, I want to say that when you're thinking about that, I hope that your calling will leave you here, will keep you here in Mississippi. God bless you and congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask our chairman of the board, David Garner, to come speak. Chairman Garner.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Thank you, Auditor White, for those very challenging and informative words. I do have to share with you that Governor Bryant called me the other day and extended his acknowledgement that you were going to be our commencement speaker, and he had some very kind things to say about you. He really did. He recalled the time that he was our commencement speaker several years ago, and he said, "Now, David, I want to tell you a little bit about Shad. He's incredibly, incredibly bright, beautifully articulate, highly educated. And if he had worked just a little harder, he could have gotten an Ole Miss law school like you did. But he went to Harvard instead." Thank you, Auditor White, for those words of encouragement and for your commitment to making this place we call home the place that we all desire it to be, and a place that is richer and more enjoyable for all who live here. To our graduates, I commend you on your hard work and your success on behalf of the Board of Trustees. I want to acknowledge the hard labors and the tireless task of our distinguished faculty. Jones is what it is today because of your selfless service and your dedicated commitment to these graduates that are here before us today, just as I was once some years ago. Thank you. Let's give our faculty a hand. Will you join with me? Thank you. And I leave you with these words, as recorded in the book of Proverbs. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Congratulations.
Now, Vice President Weaver, come and present the graduating class.
Will the graduates please rise? Dr. Smith, these graduates have met the requirements as set forth by the faculty, administration, Board of Trustees, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges. I recommend that they receive the appropriate Associate of Arts degree, Associate of Applied Science degree, technical or career certificate.
Thank you, Vice President Weaver. There are three people that are instrumental in helping this today, the actual conferring of degrees. First of which is our SGA president, who is here, and his name is Jared Woolard, and Jared carried in the college mace. Let's give Jared a nice round of applause. Another fantastic leader. Also, our Vice President of Enrollment, Mr. Rick Hamilton, and Registrar Casey Minix, and they're going to be helping us with the process. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, do you remember the first day that you held your son or daughter, your granddaughter for the first time? You remember that, and you see them today dressed in their regalia. You remember that they were given a name, and that name may be named after you. One of my cousins, Sydney Christine Brady. Christine is a name of her aunt. Her family is here. Many of you are the namesakes of these students. It is extraordinarily important that when we call their name, that is heard. It is a time-honored tradition here that during the ceremony, when we call their names, to go against your nature, which is to scream and shout and clap and say, "About time." We want to hear every person's name. We want you to hold it in reverence while we do that, in complete silence until it is over with. And it won't take long if we do this. So hold in that nature, and I will assure you that when it is over, when the last person comes through, we will shout all day, all afternoon until they hear us in the gates of St. Peter, and we will do here until you get absolutely tired. But until then, let's honor this time-honored tradition of remaining reverent during the ceremony while we call each of the graduates' names. Thank you for helping me make today a great day. Graduates, please come forward.
Madeline Jeanette Collins. Shivam Desai. Anna Catherine Hampton. Josiah Stevens. Jared Woolard. Lakeland Lee Bohannon. Anna Victoria Broom. Allison Mariah Bird. Panicius Cowart. Lakeland Jewel Flint. Melissa Camille Hankins. Connor Lee Henderson. Mackenzie Lee Jordan. Ariana Jordan Marcos. Maria Jordan Marcos. Stephen Paul Martin. Dylan Thomas Meeks. Emma Catherine Sanders. John Ryan Sasser. Stephen Michael Sasser. Mary Helen Sherman. Maggie Elizabeth Smith. Molly Ann Smith. Caitlin Ware. Tara Leanne Williamson. Emily Lauren Youngblood. Caitlin Graham. Charles Nolan Abercrombie. Brandy Monique Agee. Galen Alexander. Rebecca Allen. Shakia Khalil Amatrude. Shatricia Camelia Alvarez. Trevor Hunt Amerson. Chelsea Josiah Amerson. Kenneth Joshua Anderson. Audrey Dolores Arguello. Christyle Elijah Arline. Haley Patricia Arnold. Frederick Terrell Arrington II. Michaela Michelle Banks. Clara Margaret Bankson. Ella Sophia Barker. Avriana Lachelle Barnes. Jayla Adriana Barnes. Keonvi Monet Barnes. Taylor Braxton Barnes. Caleb Edwin Bass. Donna Bass. Jaden Leanne Bassett. Gabrielle Elizabeth Batiste. Keely Brianna Bell. Joshua Bird. Sydney Nora Beach. Chadwick Seamus Bennis. Yakeem Bennett. Anita Joe Bethay. Christy Danielle Bishop. Thomas Bishop. Hunter Allen Blackburn. Lemaya Blakely. Brittany Nicole Blakeney. Shayna Cantrell Blakely. Camry Brooke Blaylock. Rabiera Bobbitt. Benjamin Lance Bohannon. Lauren Elizabeth Bone. Madison Nicole Bowling. Alexis Mercedes Bowens. Tucker Jameson Boykin. Emerald Dakota Diana Bradshaw. Savannah Caitlin Murphy Brady. Sydney Christine Brady. Jordan Matthew Breland. Hagar Quasha Bridges. Koyasha Bridges. William Keith Briggs. Holly Grace Brooks. Blakeney Seaborn Broom. Dominique Latoll Brown. Joshua Rayford Brown. Laura Ann Brown. Sydney Lauren Brown. Dallas Caleb Brownlee. Angela Rochelle Bruce. Jayla Shaylin Brumfield. David Cody Bryant. Denton Henry Bushman IV. Dylan Michael Butler. Odisha Lateries Lee Butler. Jarvis Jamon Buxton. Keon Dwayne Kane. Caroline Page Cameron. Charles Houston Cannon. George Anthony Carmichael II. Alexis Lee Carter. Keith William Carter II. Shania Denise Carter. Victoria Anna Carter. Jorge Castillo. Rebecca Lee Catt. Caitlin Chain. Cassidy Ann Chandler. Kermail Bernard Chandler. Leslie Aaron Chapman. Tyree Devontae Chapman. Colby Lee Charlton. Madison Blakeney Chatham. Chelsea Chestnut. Frankie Dillon Chisholm. Robert Clinton Chrisman. Cortland Noel Clanton. Haley Mariah Clark. Mackenzie Lorraine Clark. Wesley Allen Clayton. Emily Jane Clement. Taylor Denise Coker. Brianna Nicole Colbert. Preston John Edward Coleman. Mary Catherine Diane Collins. Tatiana Aliana Chantrice Collins. Janaya Connor. Jada Yune Cook. Kanisha Lene Cooley. Madeline Jan Cooley. Chelsea Nicole Cooper. Christopher Owen Cote. Joshua Norman Lee Kersey. Kelly Nicole Kraft. Caitlin Christine Craig. Ryan Nicole Craig. William Jaden Crane. Deshaun Raphael Crawford. David Reed Crawford. Jabari Crawford. Haley Brienne Criddle. Jennifer Nicole Cruz. Malik Draquan Dade. Zachary Leotis Dale. Odyssey Dantzler. Ronald Trevor Davidson. Amber Aviana Davis. Ariana Alexis Davis. Destin Dwayne Davis. Faith Amanda Davis. Jenny Marie Deal. Zaviria Chantel Deloach. Jesse Lane Deese. Colton Luke Dennis. Walker Michael DeWitt. Marco Antonio Diaz. Adam Dixon. Kayla Alicia Donnell. Kobe Jarrell Dorsey. Braden Allen Doss. Hannah Danielle Dubin. Brianka Lachey Ducksworth. Keosha Kiamber Ducksworth. Christopher Cordarius Dukes. Leanna Marie Dunham. Tiffany Catherine Dial. Daniel W. Easley. Stephen Daniel Easley. Caitlin Lillian Eakes. Sean Michael Eubanks. Brett Ty Evans. Catherine Latrice Evans. Raven DeAnjane Evans. Madison Dawn Fairburn. Paris Jabbar Fairley. Michael Tanner Fenton. Emily Lynn Finley. Eric Higdon Fisher. Haley Renee Fitzgerald. Cameron Dylan Flowers. Maddie Elizabeth Ford. Kimberly Ann Freeman. Morgan Aaron Freeman. Cameron Dante Frost. Erica Lee Gaddy. Eliana Nashay Gaddy. William Gaines Jr. Quatasia Gamage. William Gaines. Keely Brooke Gardner. Dalton Connor Garris. Rashida Ladream Gates. Devon Christopher G. Taranika Gibbs. Lauren Christopher Gibson. Nicholas Lane Gibson. Kaylin Daniel Glover. William Don Gowan. Alicia Jeanette Graham. Tyler Scott Graham. Teresa Louise Grantham. Melisha Chantel Graves. Sarah Ashley Graves. Kaylee Celeste Green. Johanny Garou. London Elise Guthrie. Matthew Stapleton Haight. Brandon Hale. Antonio Hales. Kiana Shante Hamilton. Samantha Grace Hammonds. Vinay K. Han. Jazz Tashay Hansbrough. Kia Alexis Hardy. Alec Luke Harper. Keep walking, that picture will be done by the time y'all get there. Avery Alden Harris. Crystalline Harris. Elijah Deshawn Harris. Allie Ray Harvey. Tamira Nicole Haskin. Jacob Tyler Hathorn. Lauren Ashley Heidelberg. Haley Rose Hilton. Anna Lee Henry. Yana Tiandra Henley. James Thomas Henry III. Larius Keon Henry. Felicia Janae Henry. Kendall Page Harrington. Sydney Raven Harrington. Michael Gregory Hester. Steve Tyler Hybley. Davis Scott Hicks. Tamisha Shaquille Hicks. Trayvon Rashad Hinton. James Hodges. Caitlin Elizabeth Holifield. Carolyn Langley Holifield. Christopher Zachary Holifield. John Holland Jr. Mary Kate Holland. Ro Antonio Jamarian Hollins. Deandra Rashawn Hollis. Pamela Brooke Hosey. Ariana Elise Howard. Ashley Sanders Howard. Kavion Latrell Howard. Robert Kimball Hudson. Rodrika Miosha Hunt. Crawford Joseph Hunter. Jalen Key Alexander Husband. Carly Ray Husband. Kelby Renee Husser. Christopher Irvine Sheely. Carly Brianne Ishii. Trevor Reed Ishii. Justin Dakota Eisen. Cheyenne Chase Jackson. Lexus Jackson. Jamar Shaheem James. Tana Victoria James. Tate Hurston James. Lauren Elizabeth Jemison. Zara Larissa Jimenez. Jasmine Chantel Johnson. Kaylee Delane Johnson. Leonard Wayne Johnson Jr. Houston Forrest Johnston. Elizabeth Marie Jolly. Caroline Elizabeth Jones. Demetrius Raekwon Jones. Jessica Heather Jones. Caitlin Elizabeth Jones. Maya Giselle Jones. Quintasia Zykeria Jones. Shamarte Jones. Brianna Caitlin Caroli. Charles Dalton Keene. Christy Nicole Kelly. Candace Nicole Kendrick. J.T. Kennedy. Jeremy Peyton Kepper. Tiffany Rochelle Kirksey. Macy Ann Knight. Troy Allen Knight. Emily Noel Knotts. Tabitha Elise Knotts. Zachary Jamal Knox. Jeffrey Eugene Ladnier. Connor Reed Landrum. Matthew Rufus Landrum. Megan Celine Langan. Madison Brooke Layton. Sydney Grace Levitt. Abigail Hope Leday. Emily Ann Leggett. Tobias Marquise Lewis. Alexander Little. Douglas Allen Little. Randall Lane Lofton. Alacia Monez Lofton. Casey Danielle Logan. Carla Ann Lott. Haley Deanne Lott. Candy Arkia Lovett. Kara Lynn Lowe. Taylor Michelle McGee.
Now, come on, moms and dads, grandparents, you know you can do better than that. Let me hear you one more time. Let's go. I think they have one more in them. I think you got one more in you. Let's hear it. Here we go. Woo, let's go. Thank you so much. If you could be seated just for a moment. I want to tell you, you did fantastic. Thank you so much. Students, let's give them a round of applause for the time-honored tradition. They did great. You've been inspired today, students. You heard him. I think we need to let one more time. Let's give him one more round of applause. That's what I'm talking about. In closing today, students, it's been a great day to spend with you. It's been a great 2 years for some of you, 1 year for some of you. Some of you have been 3, maybe 4, but it's been wonderful. You have learned a lot over this time period. You've learned some great things. You may have learned from some great philosophers, from your great faculty members. Like a few quotes like this from Aristotle. He says, it is during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light. We've heard the words of Christ taught. You've heard me say those things about you are the salt of the earth. If the salt is lost its Savior, wherewith shall it be salted, but good for nothing, and cast out and trodden under the feet of the men. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do men light a candle and hide it under a bushel. You've heard us tell you these things. You've heard quotes and philosophies from somebody of your own era, like SpongeBob SquarePants, such as, Gary, go away. Can't you see I'm trying to forget you? Those of you that are Gen Xers, you may remember Fred Flintstone and the way he was able to take a phrase and put joy in it. You remember his philosophy of life. It was yabba dabba doo, right? Now I want to leave you with one of the greatest philosophers, I think, and poets, and a man of joy and happiness. I want to leave this quote with you. Faculty and students, would you please stand? You know, there is a moment in time when you receive your degree that something compels, some statement, something that brings it all together that says, this is how I feel. There's nobody better. Patrick, are you ready? Nobody better that can bring this together than none other than the great philosopher, Mr. James Brown.
Wow!